I'm Dr. Dale Caldwell, the host of Family Business World. We have, again, another great show with somebody who's been a friend for a long time and one of my MBA classmates, Jennifer Demetrius. Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on this show. I'm looking forward to this.
Now, Jennifer does a lot of things, but I have asked her, because she is so incredible, to be the executive director of the foundation I started, the Dale Caldwell Foundation, where we're focusing on reducing poverty through education, entrepreneurship, and employment. So Jennifer, I want to publicly just thank you for that. You've been doing a great job. But I want to start with your background. Where did you grow up, and where did you go to high school? And just I want the audience to know a little bit more about you.
Well, thank you. So actually, I grew up in the Bronx, New York. I was actually born in England, in London, actually. My parents moved here when I was 8 years old, and I grew up in the Bronx. Wow. So, in the Bronx, just, a neighborhood. I was called Jenny from the block. I always like to say that. I feel like I'm the original Jenny from the block because I know I'm older than J-Lo. I went to public schools. And I went to Pace University, which is a college in Lower Manhattan in New York. And I got my degree in accounting and went on to do some work as a CPA in terms of public accounting. And then after a few years, I went on to graduate school where we met, at the Wharton School of Business. And from there, it's just been a myriad of experiences, Dale. I mean, I've spent most of my professional career in corporate America, really taking on roles as division controller or division CFO for a number of major corporations, such as AT&T, HP, Siemens Corporation. Most recently, I've been working as a consultant in the M&A space. But all along that time, I've always done a number of things entrepreneurially for myself, very small, but pretty much working with families, individuals, close family members in terms of doing their taxes and, just business consulting in general, because I really am, just love to give back and help people.
And you always have, and it's funny to remember that, so we graduated from the Wharton MBA program way back in 1988, and we were in the same study group, right? Yeah. We went through some of those same things, a long time ago. So it's just funny where we've come, and you've done great things. We did a program, and I had forgotten, you said the other day that the tennis thing, so obviously I teach tennis, and I'm certified, and you came to when my best moment on a tennis court. I had a chance to teach tennis with Arthur Ashe. And you were there, right? You were in that program.
Yes,
I had forgotten
exactly.
about that. For the Arthur Ashe had wanted to get a lot of the black MBA alumni to play tennis. And so he did a free clinic. And it's the first time I really met him, and he was just such a gentleman. It's just so sad that he's gone. So one of the things, and so the idea of this foundation was started really in honor of my ancestors. And so in a minute we'll show a picture of my dad that I don't think I've shown on this show before. So of my dad, Ralph Abernathy, and Dr. King. And my dad was a foot soldier in the civil rights movement. There's my dad. Ralph Abernathy was the person next to my dad was the right-hand guy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and there's the legendary Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And the idea, my dad was in Selma and was on the Poor People's Campaign, but the March on Washington was for jobs and freedom. And people don't realize Dr. King was focused on economic freedom as much as other things. And that's what, Jennifer, you and I have really been doing with this. And so, give me some of your thoughts about that.
So that's a good point, Dale. I mean, the thing is, where we are today, the only way to really uplift our community or any community that is underserved is really through economics. Mm-hmm. And, through economics, it's through being able to self-sustain. And right now, I feel that way is through entrepreneurship and also jobs. Mm-hmm. And basically, we cannot thrive as a community if we're not working and we're not gaining money or wealth. And one of the reasons why I'm so honored to be part of the Dale Caldwell Foundation is because you've carried on that legacy from your father as well as Martin Luther King in terms of really being focused on the economic side of it in terms of educating young people as well as the community in general, and really instilling programs around job creation and also changing the mindset of people so that they understand that they could do these things around job creation and entrepreneurship. And this is the perfect time for it right now.
Well, very well said. And this is going to be the kind of the world premiere announcement of a project that we're working on called the Black Excellence Alliance. And it's really focused on the positivity of the excellence in the Black community and recognizing legends from the past, but also empowering people through entrepreneur zones and other things. And so one of the challenges, and so Jennifer and I, obviously going to Wharton, we've worked with people of all races and backgrounds. We're very inclusive. But sometimes people say, well, why are you focusing on the Black community? And the reality is, because of the residue of the past, the Black community is suffering today because of things. And so the playing field is not level. So you really have to focus it. And I'll ask you to comment, but I just want to give one stat that in Boston, Massachusetts, we had a seminar that Don Peebles spoke. The net worth of the white population in Boston is $237,000. The net worth of the multi-generational African-American community in Boston is $8. So we need to really focus on Black excellence and really trying to help that community, and that will benefit all of America and people of all colors. So Jennifer, you want to say a little more about that?
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. And I just want to comment on the last thing that you said in terms of, the economics of the Black community. Because the thing is, we cannot be a great nation if people are suffering.
Yep.
I mean, and we are known as, the greatest country in the world, but we know that we have issues and we have problems. But there's enough resources in this country to go around where everybody can be successful and everybody can prosper and everybody can maintain a lifestyle, just a general lifestyle in terms of living and not living in poverty. And to your point, in terms of the historical context, I like to use an analogy, kind of like a visual analogy. Everyone really knows who Usain Bolt is in terms of a runner and the greatness that he's achieved in terms of speed. And we all know that it's very difficult for anybody to catch Usain Bolt. But I say, imagine that you're in a race with Usain Bolt and you are in the starting block and Usain Bolt is 25 or 50 meters ahead of you in terms of starting. When that gun goes off, Usain is gone. And what is the likelihood of anyone catching Usain Bolt?
Right.
And I feel that that's a reflection of the Black community today. There is so much historical context to why, we are behind, that it's very difficult to catch up. We know that this country was built collectively by Black and white people, but at the same time, the input that Blacks or African Americans have had on this community is their labor was free. So the fact that their labor was free means that the people who have generational wealth today, a lot of that generational wealth was built off of free labor. And we know from a business perspective that if you have a business where you have free labor, unlimited free labor, so to speak, of course, you're going to be much further ahead. And so it's that component of it. It's the mindset. A lot of people don't have, the vision or even the exposure to see that they have opportunities and that they can achieve. So some of the things that we're doing around Black excellence is really highlighting those achievements that we've made overall worldwide as well as domestically here in the U.S.
Well, very, very well said. And as I said, the whole idea of this of Black excellence is really to benefit people of all races and backgrounds, because that will improve the economy. And so there's a story that we're working on an event in May 30th. And so the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma, during segregation, when segregation was legalized, the Supreme Court said segregation is the law of the land. This community became the wealthiest Black community in the country, called Black Wall Street. And it was a model of entrepreneurship, of people working together. And so in a minute, we're going to show 3 pictures from that community. Jennifer, you want to say a little bit about that?
Sure. So this particular area in Greenwood, which is probably one of many, as you said, when we were coming out of slavery in the early 1900s, these communities were self-contained. And by being self-contained, you had to be sufficient. So communities had all of the resources, all of the stores, just like any community today. You had your banks, insurance companies, of course, beauty salons here, barbershops, schools, doctors, lawyers, everything was self-contained. And this particular area in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, called Greenwood, was probably, I think, around a breadth of maybe 30 miles, including the sprawl of it. Mm-hmm. But just think, back in 1920s, there were 7 individuals in that community who were Black that had their own private plane. Incredible. So, I mean, where I live today, here, I don't think that, I know of anybody that has a private plane, much less back then. So that just demonstrates the wealth that was in that community and why that community came to be known as Black Wall Street. And this is what we're trying to achieve today with the Black Excellence Alliance, which is really creating a sustainable community around education, entrepreneurship, and employment. And we're doing that to unite the Black community so that they could prosper and succeed and just feel empowered overall and have a sense of value.
Well, and as the executive director of the Dale Caldwell Foundation, you really are the coordinator, the director of this Black Excellence Alliance, which is really just an association of different organizations coming together to really try to improve America. And so we're going to take a break in a little bit, but one of the things that happened is that this community was thriving. People were living the American dream, and then on June 1st, 1921, they were bombed by racists and the local government. So we're going to take a break right now. We're going to come back and let's talk about that, Jennifer, and we'll see some pictures of the the Greenwood before the attack.
This plus this equals this plus this and this. Don't drink and drive.
Listen, what will make your event simply beautiful? Is it your attire, your decorations, your entertainment? Well, join me, Alicia Simone, as I chat with some amazing vendors and clientele who will share their stories and images and their experiences. Right here on RVN TV, Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. and Wednesday at 4 p.m. It will be simply beautiful. See you then.
Welcome back to Family Business World. I'm your host, Dr. Dale Caldwell, with a friend and colleague, Jennifer Demetrius, the executive director of the Dale Caldwell Foundation. We were just talking about the Greenwood section of Tulsa, Oklahoma, the wealthiest Black community in the world, in the United States in 1921. We're going to talk about the bombing in a second. But one of the things that we started with is Black Excellence Alliance, and our website is going public this week. It's blackexcellence.org, blackexcellence.org. So if you want to learn more about what this group is doing, and there are multiple halls of fame in there, really celebrating the wonderful things that have gone on in the Black community. So Jennifer, things were going well, this community, people living the American dream, and then they're bombed. Talk a little bit about that, and then we'll see some pictures in a minute.
Right. So as you mentioned, before the break, anytime you have a thriving community, there's always going to be factions that will become jealous. Mm-hmm. And over time, just seeing this representation of Black excellence in a community and a community that's self-sustaining, of course, that brought some jealousy from, white people.
And they're showing the parade. The parade came up on the screen. They can see that parade down Main Street.
There was an incident in an elevator, supposedly, where a young Black man may or may not have touched a white girl. And this got out, and it just kind of incited people, or really gave them the excuse to pick up arms. So what happened was, over a 2-day period, starting on May 30th through June 1st, nothing less than an army of people came into the community and pretty much at their will, not only bombed the community, but systematically just killed a number of people, slaughtered them at the end of the day. I mean, this was a true massacre. And during that 2-day period, there were over 300 people who died, and that is a number that we don't even know what the true number is. And on top of that, some of those people have never been identified. Their businesses have been bombed, burned down. The whole community was just completely destroyed. And as you take a look at some of the pictures, I mean, it just really just looks like a war zone. So that is what happened during that 2-day period, 1921. This upcoming May 30th, obviously, is very significant because it marks the 100th anniversary of that massacre. And what we're doing is really promoting Black excellence at this point. And that's what we're doing with the BEA, which is the Black Excellence Alliance. And that's what we're focused on. And we want to recreate those communities that are self-sustaining.
And I had the opportunity to found the Black Entrepreneurs Hall of Fame and the Black Inventors Hall of Fame. And they're having their inaugural induction ceremony on May 30th. And so we're going to remember the victims of the massacre and really celebrate their lives and their accomplishments. I think over 200 businesses were destroyed. But we are also going to induct some incredible people, and you'll hear more in the future. I'm going to have those executive directors on the show in the future of inventors, incredible inventors and incredible entrepreneurs going forward to really move that forward. But also what Jennifer and I are working on is the Greenwood section, people call it Black Wall Street, was a model of something, an idea that I have called an entrepreneur zone or an E-zone, that it was an area that was a place where entrepreneurs were encouraged to flourish, which reduced poverty, increased income, increased the quality of the education of students, increased the environment, increased the housing stock. And so we're trying to expand that and multiply that around the country to create these E-zones. Jennifer, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So we are in the process of working with local communities around establishing entrepreneur zones in their particular area. And to your point, this is really a way for us to uplift our communities, grow our communities, and get to that point where we're self-sustaining again. We've all heard, a statistic, or a lot of us have heard a statistic, that Black people in America contribute or have $1.9 trillion of spending dollars. Well, that $1.9 trillion spending dollars is not spent in our communities, which is quite obvious. It's spent in other communities at large. And what we want to do is keep those dollars in the Black community, because if you keep it in the Black community, entrepreneurship increases, businesses could grow, you can have manufacturing, farming, schools, supermarkets. I mean, communities don't even have, good supermarkets in their neighborhood. And everything kind of ties together, because if you don't have access to food, if you don't have access to good food, then your health declines. Your health declines, and then, you just, you're living, you have these morbidity issues,
Right.
and you're exposed to a number of things, and your bodies are weakened. So at the end of the day, that's what we're striving for. We have about 6 or 7 that we're working with right now in terms of community crossing from the state of New Jersey. We have a few in New Jersey. We have Philadelphia. We hope to have one in Atlanta. So these are going on right now. And we're hoping that we could get this message out. And there are ways that you can get involved in terms of supporting these communities going forward.
Absolutely, and ezones.org is the website. Now I want to show, we have 2 more pictures. So these are pictures of the past of the Greenwood section of Tulsa, Oklahoma, but they're also hopefully pictures of the future. They have these communities that are now boarded up and are dealing with crime, can be vital communities. So now we have the Main Street. This is the Main Street. So you can see it's a thriving Main Street. And this was in the midst of segregation, when the Supreme Court, Plessy versus Ferguson, said that segregation is the law of the land. So this is, it doesn't matter if you're conservative or liberal, you should be supportive of these kinds of programs to help empower the communities. And also, women were incredible entrepreneurs. So the next picture is of the bank, St. Luke's Bank. And Maggie Walker was head of the St. Luke's Bank back in this is 1903 when it happened. So women had incredible roles in the community. So in many ways, this old community is a model of where we want to go to. And Jennifer, what do you think? Well, talk a little bit about that too.
That is just incredible to know. The impact that, women have had on our communities. There's always a female thread through our communities. And the fact that she was able to be, the leader of this bank is just a testimony in terms of Black women and the contributions that Black women have made over time. And, when I saw that, it just reminded me of somebody like Ursula Burns, the first Black female CEO of a Fortune 500 company, Xerox. It's just amazing to see, almost 100 years later, the success of somebody like Ursula. But the fact that, you have such an extended period of time where you don't see that recognition, it's amazing. But in that time period from 1903 up to where we are today, the contributions of Black women, in particular in this country, is just phenomenal. And we all benefit from that.
All of society benefits, and as I can say once again, so the idea of focusing on Black excellence can bring equity, so that brings parity in the country, and really will help to reduce welfare costs and reduce taxes, but also improve the community, reduce crime, and those things. And so, as we get near the end of time, let's talk a little bit about the Black Entrepreneurs Hall of Fame and the Black Inventors Hall of Fame. I like to highlight somebody in the Inventors Hall of Fame. Jennifer, you're in Atlanta, and so one of our inductees invented the Super Soaker. I'll let you talk about him. But this slave in Massachusetts named Onesimus actually came up with the process that allowed us to eliminate a virus, and so back in Africa, they were among the first to actually inject a small portion of an illness into someone so the bodies can develop the antibodies. And that was the process that actually ended the virus. So as we're dealing with the pandemic and we're trying to move through the pandemic, it's interesting that contribution was by a Black slave. So talk about an entrepreneur, Jennifer.
Sure. And I love the story about Onesimus, because the thing is, but who would even know? But the fact that he has an impact on us today,
Yep.
in all of these vaccinations, not only the vaccinations that we have currently that we need associated with COVID, but all of the vaccinations, smallpox and everything is amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
But in terms of entrepreneurs, we have contributed so much from an entrepreneurial perspective. One of the entrepreneurs that I'd like to mention is a lot of people always refer to C.J. Walker as one of the first Black female millionaires in this country. But what they don't know is that C.J. Walker was actually helped by somebody else who was a millionaire by the name of Mary Ellen Pearson. So yes, she was at the front, but there was somebody behind that had that title before her. So even knowing that people were millionaires, 100 years ago is amazing, because that's a huge accomplishment in terms of what they're able to accomplish. And they were able to accomplish that by really circulating the dollar within the Black community as well. So it's a demonstration that it can be done, and that people could be very successful and very wealthy, working together and working within your community, but we have to support each other.
And we have to give people a chance. And so the reality in this whole Black Excellence Alliance is really building. I mean, some of our other projects, we're going to talk to Robert Bennett about Reconnect Tech, which is looking at creating jobs using this whole 5G transformation of society. I co-founded something called Black Friends Meet, which is a whole network of bringing people together. So we have to understand that in America is that by focusing on different groups, we can empower everybody. It's not about exclusivity, it's really about collaboration and partnership. So we're almost at time, Jennifer. Any final thoughts?
My final thought is I'm really excited about this movement and momentum. I think that this is the right time. And, my mother always used to say, out of every bad comes some good. And I think that, and you see that, right? I mean, even in terms of like the Industrial Revolution and, wars happen and then you have to create factories. I think even though that this is a despondent time, with COVID, and it may seem we're all tired of it and we all want to get out of this, but it's creating a lot of ideas. And out of this is going to spur great things. And I think that what we're doing, having the focus on Black excellence, working together with launching the Entrepreneur Zones, Reconnect Tech on the learning side, job training, education, elevating Black people in terms of exposing people to who our inventors were, entrepreneurs were, executives were. These are all contributions that we've made to society that everybody should be aware of. And it's really exciting to know, and I'm glad that I'm part of this movement.
Well, you're a very key part of it. So Jennifer, thank you so much for your time this morning. Again, I'm your host, Dr. Dale Caldwell. I want to thank you for tuning in, and watch us next time on Family Business World. Take care.
Thank you, Dale.